Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? This documentary aims to answer that question, that and more. This is Around the Blockchain. I am receiving word that I, in fact, not Satoshi Nakamoto. So it's still out there. Is it you? Let us know in the chat who you think it's going to be. And please go ahead and hit that like button because, guys, we got some fantastic guests. We're going to be talking about some great topics. Let's go ahead and get right into it. On the top left, he's not with the Wagner Group. It is T Shroom. T Shroom, how goes it? How was your weekend?
Oh, man, DZ, it was really, really good. I am doing better than I deserve. My weekend was great. Got to spend some time with family and friends and kicking it big. Right.
T Shroom, are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
I am not at liberty to say. I would let a lot of people down if I answer that question.
Okay. Yeah. Also on today, we have Sin City Crypto. Matching the colors there. I like. I don't know if that was a wardrobe change or not, but Sin City, are you or Rob Satoshi Nakamoto?
We can neither confirm nor deny those allegations.
Okay. Also, last one, we have RiceTVx. I see the handkerchief. Don't worry, he is not a Fed. He was not marching, on the sidewalk. He was a DMAS. But RiceTVx, you have some a little anonymity right now. Are you the synonymous founder, Satoshi Nakamoto?
We are all Satoshi.
That's a good answer. All right. You know what? You're starting with 1 point with that. Also, now, last but not least, we have Evan Aldo. And Evan, is that the secret to your trading? Are you moving the market with your Nakamoto wallet?
No, but I know who Satoshi is, and stay tuned to find out.
Ooh, 1 point for that, just to keep people on the hook there. All right, well, let's get right into it. Before we get into that, we're going to look at some Fortune 100 companies, not the 500. We don't care about the 101 to 499. We only care about the top 100, and they're signaling a huge push into crypto. 52% have initiated some sort of blockchain program since the beginning of 2022. This was, just take this with a grain of salt, it was conducted by Coinbase and crypto publication The Block. So these might be slightly bullish numbers, but of the 52%, 60%, more than half, is just from the start of 2022. So we're seeing a huge signal boost within just the last 18 months or so. 83% of these executives are familiar with blockchain and say they either are going to have initiatives or are planning them. Fortune 100 companies also making massive VC investments in the crypto space, about 109 VC investments across 80 different startups. And 92% think we should develop new rules for crypto instead of using old, outdated, 1934 Orange Grove tree legislation there. All right, well, T Shroom, we're hoping for this nice second bull run of corporate interests. It reminds me of the previous bull run. I think the main shift happened February 2021. Tesla announced that they had bought Bitcoin. I think they signaled it on February, but they started buying in December of the year before. Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. It ended up being a huge bullish narrative there. The next big one, Fortune 100, Fortune 20 company that comes in and makes a massive crypto investment. Do you see them adding a significant amount like 1.5 billion? Is this going to be a test amount of maybe tens of millions? Or is someone just going to go out there, MicroStrategy style, and just, put out 8 figures?
Oh man, it's a great question, DZ. I love this type of conversation. There's been a lot of philanthropists out there who have said that the best method of giving away their money that they've earned throughout their lives is just to give it to Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk has done more for the planet. He's done more for humanity with his projects than anyone has. And he is someone who has invested heavily into Bitcoin. He gets the vision. He's been thoroughly orange-pilled, and he has orange-pilled so many people. And he's put his money where his mouth is, right? 1.5 billion, that's nothing to laugh at. I think that the next wave of corporations and financial institutions and large net worth family offices as well will be FOMOing into Bitcoin like mad in this next bull run, simply because of greed, right? They're just going to get into it because they get educated very quickly. Right before the halving, right? That's what we've seen time and time again in these 4-year cycles, right? Is that when the proliferation of education around what a halving is and that it's right around the corner, right? That's really where the magic comes in to Bitcoin's ascent. And I think with Tesla kind of making the lead there, and by Tesla we mean Elon Musk and his affiliated companies, right? That given SpaceX and all of the other companies, a Boring Company and Neuralink, all of those are kind of represented in the stock price of Tesla, for better or worse. I mean, it's kind of a brilliant strategy there. But I think that ultimately, you might see companies like Amazon, you might see companies like Microsoft and Google. You may even see companies like Oracle that are kind of looking at Bitcoin as a way to hedge against kind of the political uncertainty that's going on with inflation. But I think that also we need to have more regulatory clarity in order for these companies to go ahead and get the thumbs up from their CFOs and from their legal teams. And so we don't have that quite yet. As in fact, we're kind of in the eye of the storm when it comes to regulatory clarity. So I think once we get the green light, or just before the green light, these companies like I've said, Microsoft, Apple, Google, really big multi-trillion-dollar companies are going to go ahead and FOMO into Bitcoin so that they don't miss out on all the
little pesky thing called fiduciary responsibility. Dang, it always catches them in the end. Top comment so far. Where is it? Creighton. I also bought 1.5 Bitcoin later. Oh, billion. Oh, yeah, I didn't buy as much as Elon. All right, well, Sin City Crypto, I think he threw out 3 companies right there: Amazon, Microsoft, Google. These could be some of the next buyers of Bitcoin. I want to ask you, if one of these companies signal, hey, we just bought $1.5 billion worth, would it be equal or even greater event as it was when Tesla did it? Or would it maybe not be as powerful? Bonus point, who's your prediction on who that would be?
I think it would be someone like Apple. And I don't think it's going to have the same, I don't think the market's going to respond the same way it did when Tesla did. At the narratives that are surrounding Bitcoin in our space right now, with the ETF filings and BRICS, and these central banks are going under, and the currency debasement across the globe. And so there's so much positive narrative going for Bitcoin, and the whole institution's coming, like it's here, like it's official. Asset manager in the world has filed for a spot ETF. Essentially, they're taking Bitcoin public, right? We talked about this on our show earlier today. And so when you have another company or you have multiple companies like Apple, Microsoft, whatever the case may be, announce, hey, we're going to start holding Bitcoin, I don't think it's going to have the same effect as it did with Tesla. What was it, a couple years ago, when we were like, we kept hearing, they're coming. The institutions are coming, they're coming. And bam, oh my God, they're here. Well, they're here, right? They're not coming anymore. They're here. And so I don't think it's going to have the same market effect. It'll be good either way, but not to be overblown like it was with Tesla.
I remember that narrative. You have Michael Saylor. He's talking to 100 CEOs. They're all going to buy. No one bought, maybe one person. All right. RiceTVx. Now, they polled these CEOs. 90% of them, 92% technically, believe we need policymakers to step up with more clarity. How is it where corporate America CEOs, these people want clarity, they want some guidance, yet the regulators are dragging their feet? Why are the kingmakers not listening to the kings?
Because there's obviously a plan going on at hand, unfortunately. I mean, it seems like there's an ushering in. There's been a gateway kind of opened up for TradFi to be able to take over. And this is something that I've been talking about previous videos. Me and Crypto Blood did a live stream this past Friday and talked about just this very subject of the TradFi takeover. The timing is obviously not just coincidental that we see Coinbase and Binance, both get the 2 biggest exchanges in the world, get hit by the SEC and within 2 days. And then the following week, we hear about BlackRock. We see the hearings that are taking place in regards to Prometheus, the exchange that kind of came out of nowhere that people are talking about. We see what's happening with EDX via Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and Citadel. And really what I would like to say is, I would really like to see us get some clarity so that we can have everything become tokenized. When we see things get tokenized, we can get rid of the disintermediaries. That's going to be the best part about what we had to look forward to. And shout out to Reggie Middleton and Veritasium, because what he had put out was a peer-to-peer capital market. That's what he was trying to work with, having put into existence, which would have gotten rid of that middleman, that broker relationship that you see when you look at how EDX as a institutional exchange interacts, and you see exactly how they're doing things, how they have a clearinghouse, how they have a broker, and what each facility, what role each one plays. Binance and Coinbase was doing all of that themselves. They weren't using other entities. They weren't having partnerships. They weren't having clearinghouses. They weren't doing things in a traditional way. And the only thing I really want to see is us get away from the way the TradFi system is being done. I would like to see us get tokenized, and I would love to see us get rid of these intermediaries, because that is what blockchain technology and cryptocurrency is about, is getting rid of those third-party intermediaries, those gatekeepers that want to take a little chunk off the side so that they can profit off of it. And that's what all this banking system's been about. And I'm just tired of seeing this TradFi system. I'm waiting for the change to take place. I'm waiting for the crashes to take place. I'm waiting for the tokenization to take place. And I'm not looking forward to BlackRock getting an ETF, because people don't realize the power that BlackRock has. And also, they think price is going to go up. But I tell you, these people do not buy until there's blood on the street. There's going to be a lot more blood on the street.
Well, I will push back just a little bit with the EDX. Just maybe not Bitcoin, maybe not Ethereum, but Bitcoin Cash certainly had a nice run up. You brought up the Citadel exchange.
I'll talk about Bitcoin Cash when we talk about the Lightning Network.
110% on the 7-day pump. So, maybe someone was buying. Maybe they bought a little early there. All right. Well, Evan, I'm going to follow up one of the previous questions. We have Amazon, Microsoft, Google. That was T Shroom's, possible guesses. Then we have someone called him the B team. Sin City Crypto. They're saying it could be Apple. I don't know if it's going to be Apple. Evan, who do you think it might be, with that next $1.5 billion buy? Who's the likely candidate? And follow up here, let's go forward 10 years, 2033. Right now, as far as Fortune 100, I know Tesla has it on its balance sheet. I think that might be it at this point. How many of those top 100 companies will have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, even if it's just $1's worth?
So to answer your first question, I think Apple and Amazon are the two big boys that would most likely fill that gap of potentially buying, $1 billion or more worth of. Those were the two ones that were rumored to buy last bull run. I heard a lot about Apple and Amazon. Usually rumors, just the more people talking about something, sometimes it just eventually gets manifested. I think those two names are most likely what we'll see. I would say, yeah, it's between those two. I think it's equal odds, but at least one of them will buy. And I think, like T Shroom was saying, we need more regulation and more clarity. And I don't think you're going to see that, at least at the absolute earliest, sometime later this year, and potentially into next year, where you may see that clarity, where we get that. And that's when a lot of people will go in. Now, to answer your second question, when did Warren Buffett, who was always a skeptic of the NASDAQ, always a skeptic of tech stocks, first buy Apple? That was around 2015. So if we follow the same pattern with that the NASDAQ kind of played, by 2033, oh man, it's going to be probably 80, 90, if not. If Bitcoin is really the big thing and the US dollar is really catapulting down as much as many think it is, it could be almost 100. Now, the question is kind of, at that point, it's, everybody already owns it. So it's kind of like, it just becomes more of a stable type thing, more acts like gold, and then kind of, it'll go up with time, but just the volatility isn't there. That's where the market cap is just so high that, you're not going to make so much. But at that point, I think the 2033 is where you're almost going to be, like all the big skeptics, everybody. I mean, if Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are still around, then I think they'll probably have to, go into it at that point. So early 2020, early 2030s, that's where everybody's there.
All right. A good example with Berkshire Hathaway and their Apple purchase. I think they actually had to sell some because it ended up just being such a large percentage of their portfolio. I'm trying to think, 2015, probably, what are we looking at? Close to 10 years after the iPhone. So maybe 10 years after, hey, man, this tech's kind of slapping you in the face. Train has left the station. And then, hey, 10 years later, he finally bought a ticket. All right,
they were 40% Apple at one point, which is crazy.
Yeah, and then good call with the Apple. I think it could be Apple as well. Tim Cook is a vocal supporter of Bitcoin, does hold Bitcoin. Some call him Tim Apple. I'll make sure we get his name right. Some call him Tim Apple, though. All right, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Is it you? Is it you at home? If you're watching, please send me a super chat. No, Satoshi Nakamoto. Type in the chat who you think it is if you have an idea. Don't say your kooky cousin. Well, CBC, this is the Canadian equivalent of the BBC, Canadian Broadcasting Channel. It's releasing a Satoshi Nakamoto documentary later this year, searching for Satoshi, the mysterious disappearance of the Bitcoin creator. Goes over his origin, goes over the disappearance, and then they have 5 candidates on who it might be. Craig Wright. They did throw out Craig Wright. No, is it Sin City Crypto? We don't know. Let's see. Nick Szabo, I think Hal Finney was two of the other names. I know Hal Finney for sure is one of the 5 candidates. And of course, Bitcoin first hit the scene late 08 with its white paper. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, when it was released. And then less than 2 years later, Satoshi Nakamoto sent his final message, leaving just a statement, "I moved on to other things." His wallet still remains untouched. Now, Sin City Crypto, BJ, our director, technical director, he seems to think it's you. I don't know if it's you or Rob. I thought you were MicroStrategy CEO on one day, but question to you, if it isn't you, will we ever find the true identity with Satoshi? Will AI ever get to the point? Will, maybe a whistleblower step forward? Will we ever learn?
Why? Like, why? We have this perfect thing where it's an anonymous founder. No one's got control of his wallet. Like, that is part of the reason why it gets its name of being decentralized. There's not a name or an image you can put to it. Why are people so like, just leave it alone? Who cares who it is? The network is working fine. Okay. Stop trying to find the answer. You're going to ruin everything for everyone. It's like that one kid, right? Everyone's got privileges of eating and leaves their food in the back and now no one can eat. Just like, leave it alone. But if I had to take a guess who Satoshi is, he's dead. It was, in my opinion, it was Hal Finney.
Yep.
Okay.
Me too. Yeah,
that's
2
my
points.
thing. Rob is throwing Steve Jobs out there. I think Elon Musk, maybe, probably not,
And Elon, for his credit, I believe has said it's Nick Szabo.
It's Elon.
Elon says it's Nick.
He thinks it's Szabo, yeah.
Yeah.
And Robin's like that kid. You tell him, go to your room and be quiet, and he just can't help but to peek his head out. But anyways,
Elon, it was Elon.
What I'm trying to say is, if I keep getting interrupted here, what I'm trying to say is, I think it was Hal Finney. Either way, I think the person's dead. Hal Finney, Steve Jobs. People thought it was Steve Jobs because the Bitcoin white paper was found in the depths of the Apple operating system or the MacBook or whatever was found. But either way, guys, just leave it alone, right? Whoever Satoshi was made an amazing thing and stepped away.
All right.
That way.
Hey, just leave it as it is. Just leave it as the beautiful white paper. All right, RiceTVx.
Some
what
things
are your
don't need to be fixed.
Okay. All right. Well, don't tell that to Bob Barker and what he's trying to do with America's Pets. RiceTVx, what would you say? I don't even know what I was going to ask her. Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin's origin? Do you think that there's an intelligence agency angle to this? If so, what odds do you put that this was maybe invented by the CIA?
Okay, good question. I wouldn't necessarily say the CIA, but government is not out of the question. But we have like a list of people. I mean, there's people have speculated about Elon. If you really look into it, that's an interesting theory. Sergei Nazarov, that's an even more interesting theory when you look at some of the websites that he had at the time that he had got the websites and apparently the relationship between the websites that were secured by Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, I don't think that Satoshi is one individual either. There's been talk about Nick Szabo. Then we also have Gavin Andresen. Gavin Andresen was one of the reasons why speculatively that Satoshi ended up leaving, because I believe it was Gavin that had a relationship or some kind of contact with the CIA after Bitcoin's creation several years after. Once there was CIA Alphabet involvement, it looked like Satoshi.
Can we just double down on that? Not everyone knows about that. There was, if I'm not mistaken, 4 engineers was contacted by the NSA or intelligence agencies, and they did meet with them. That is confirmed.
Yes, and Gavin being the main one. But it's a theory as to whether that was why Satoshi left, but it was right around the same time period. There's also a Paul LaRue individual. That's an interesting theory. You guys can check out the Road to Ruta theory about Alan Greenspan, one of the former Fed chairs. He's actually one of the very first computer programmers as well. So, and he's very, very adept with economics. Craig Wright, as much as I don't like Craig White, is what I like to say because I don't want to get in trouble with anything. Craig White, I believed, had something to do with writing a white paper, as much as I hate to admit that. The writing styles, the comparisons of Craig White's information very much matches up. But again, I don't think it's one individual, and I do believe that there was more than likely either one form of government, whether it was the United States or multiple different government agencies, and I look at it as being good guys within, because we got to look at the spectrum of that. There's not always negative players in every situation. You have good guys, you have bad guys. There are people I would like to think in the United States government that are looking out for the benefit of the people. And by releasing a technology like this, it does a whole lot of things, especially for our economy. If we end up as a nation being the one that already holds probably more Bitcoin than anyone else, but also if the United States government had Satoshi's wallet in addition to what the United States government already has, that would just be insane, and that would totally change the trajectory of where the United States is headed economically. And then the BRICS nation, last thing I'll say, is talking about backing their stuff up by Bitcoin. So when you have nations doing it, it makes me question the involvement of who was doing it. But there's no way it was one person.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with a lot of that. We'll see where this ends up. I don't know if more evidence will ever come out in the future.
History.
Maybe some of these other people on deathbeds tend to have a lot to say. So maybe we'll learn some bombshell 20 years from now.
Maybe he'll get unfrozen. Maybe he'll get unfrozen, and we'll get an answer.
Maybe his wife drops a bombshell.
Obstacle.
The wife could drop a bombshell on the deathbed there. All right, now T Shroom. We talk about good actors in the government. We got that hotshot fighter pilot Maverick. We got like Jack Reacher. I'm trying to think of fake literary characters. Strider from Aragorn. All right, well, T Shroom, we consider you a good actor within the government as well. What do you think would happen if his identity was revealed? Would he be prosecuted? Would he have to go into hiding? Would we never learn about it because he's in a windowless room? If you just had a guess, how would that play out?
Man, that would be a crazy outcome for Satoshi if he had to, for some reason, felt like he needed to go public with his identity. Unfortunately, my opinion is that would be pretty crushing. It would be pretty crushing for Satoshi. The B team over at Sin City Crypto, they mentioned that why can't we just leave Satoshi's identity in mystery? And my hope is that his identity, he or she identity is left in mystery. But in terms of the legal implications, it's not clear to me that he would necessarily face any legal repercussions for his or her actions. Maybe down the road. But I mean, the way that the government has handled Bitcoin, the SEC specifically, it seems like Bitcoin of all the cryptos is actually being treated as like kind of the gifted kid in the class. Is like it's the best behaved, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that there isn't a central human entity behind it that is still in existence or is known about. So I would say it would have to be some seriously messed up situation that would have to lead Satoshi to have to reveal his or her identity. I'm partial to the fact that it was actually a group of people, probably a government agency. Or a group of people, who are like in business partnership with each other. So, somebody maybe in the realm with Elon Musk, around the time that PayPal was created. You're also seeing Bitcoin be created kind of in the same decade. So that's kind of my prediction, is that it was either the U.S., maybe the UK government, or a government agency under a major Western power, or it was somebody some kind of private group. Not unlike what you kind of see Elon Musk and kind of the PayPal mafia and his whole entourage. There were also mentioned by RiceTVx. By the way, I've had a couple of bites of his shirt today, and it's really opened my eyes quite a bit. But RiceTVx mentioned a couple of different individuals that could have created Bitcoin, and it's absolutely possible. It's anybody's guess. It could have been a 14-year-old.
I know who it was.
Okay. All right. Breaking news. Sin City. Who was
I got it? Gary Gensler. Yeah. Why
Gary
else would he
Gensler.
name everything as security except Bitcoin?
Dang it. That is a
Why
point
else?
right there. That's a good point right there.
Damn,
all right.
You blew us all away, man.
Quick follow-up. If you want to hear from Nick Szabo, I think Naval Ravikant and David Deutsch, I believe, or maybe someone else, they have a great podcast. They talk to him. Also, Tim Ferriss, I believe, has 2 podcasts with them. If you want to hear Nick Szabo speak at length about cryptocurrency. All right, well, last question on this topic. Evan, I want to know, what do you think? Just predictions, because I don't think TA would even cover this. If that wallet with, I believe, 1.1 million Bitcoin in it, this is Satoshi's wallet. Those who don't know, Satoshi he mined 1 million Bitcoin. It's in a wallet. It has not moved. Those Bitcoin are just, quote unquote, stuck there forever. That's the idea. The idea is, but if one of those Bitcoins moved the smallest amount, the one Satoshi, it would create a huge selling panic. Everyone's going to open a short. Everyone's going to dump their Bitcoin. What do you think it would actually look like with the prices at today? So we're at 30K today. All of a sudden, one Satoshi moves from Bitcoin, from the OG Bitcoin wallet. Do I wake up tomorrow to $100 Bitcoin?
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but yeah, you're probably barking at the right tree there. Yeah, you're talking about potentially, that going to zero and then Ethereum taking over. You would probably see the flipping pretty quickly. You would see Ethereum most likely take over in market cap, and all the Ethereum maxis would, oh my God, have the most giant party, in the world. I could just see it already. All these Ethereum
Rainbows
people
and
just going
unicorns.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would go to zero it depends how much, like if the person puts more than one Bitcoin and tries to sell large amounts of it, yeah, you're probably going to zero, honestly, at that point. It would be a whole Renaissance cascade. It would be a nightmare. It'd be fun. Like, it would be fun to report on it. It would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of would be,
gonna,
actually. I think it would be.
It's not going to happen because I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, like, for what we were saying about who was Satoshi and all that, I think most likely the person who had that wallet is Hal Finney, who is now dead, and probably those keys are gone. Or, I mean, maybe one of his relatives still has a laptop or something. That's where you're kind of getting there. But I think he's the one. If he wasn't the main creator, I think he was the one. Hal Finney was the one that received, I believe, the first Bitcoin. I think he was the one with that wallet. And luckily, not that it's unfortunate, but luckily he's doesn't that wallet nobody has access to, most likely. So that's good.
If you lean a little more, or go ahead, Rice.
He was cryogenically frozen. So
yeah, his head is frozen.
If they're able to unfreeze him, he might have this in his brain. It might be a brain wallet that's just like literally cold
the world's most expensive brain ever.
Storage.
I will say this: if you lean a little, if you lean a little conspiratorial, if you look into the disease Hal Finney died from, is very, very, very rare. That's all I'll just say there. Bogues, I think, had a pretty good comment, though. As if we believe any news claiming to know the identity of Satoshi, I wouldn't. You know what? I agree with that, Bogues. Maybe that's the famously short basketball player. I don't know if it is or not. Was that Buzz Aldrin? What was that? I don't know what that was.
I forget that guy's name. That's the mentor of London Reels. Host.
Okay.
Pena.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin from a distance here. All right,
money.
Speaking of Bitcoin, that is a lightning strike. That is the Lightning Network. They hit an all-time high when it comes to the amount of Bitcoin being moved on the platform. They did hit a fiat high November of 21, but looks like they can move up to 5,630 Bitcoin at once. That's $170 million broken down into microtransactions that, boom, they can just put on one block right there. And there's more booms in the network expected down the line. We have Binance. It's about to integrate some Lightning Network payments there. And it looks like since the start of the year, its capacity is up almost 7%. So we're seeing a slow and steady increase with this network capacity here. And at present, 3,000 Satoshis to make a trade on the Bitcoin network. And to move one Bitcoin, 30K, it is the fees of 91 cents. So, guys, it only costs less than $1 to move $30,000. An interesting note here, though, the size of each channel is also reaching a all-time high. Looks like each link between two Lightning participants is coming in around $2,000 average transaction. So these people, they're not buying sticks of gum. They're not buying the soda from the gas station. People are moving small amounts of Bitcoin, 10%, 1%. All right, well, let's see. Who am I going to ask this question to? Rice, I can tell you want to ask about Bitcoin Cash, so I'll leave you a little open. T Shroom, you threw your hands up. I'm going to ask you, who the hell is using Lightning Network? I can't name one person in my real life, and that's a real statement.
Wow, that is a great question. I mean, it's got to be.
Have you used it?
It's got to be. I probably have. That maybe I didn't know about it. But no, I haven't used it.
Minus 2 points.
I think the question, I think the answer to here is
you don't decide.
It's got to be people outside of the United States. People outside of the United States are actually using Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies at a higher frequency for actual use, not just investment, than many Americans and many Europeans and folks who live in the United Kingdom as well. So my guess is that the massive amount of volume that we're seeing reflected in these charts and in these figures that DZG just went over is more than likely people in countries like Nigeria, who have a lot of unsettled financial system there, a financial system that's just deeply, deeply broken. They've tried to roll out CBDCs out there to no avail, couldn't get any kind of real adoption. But so countries like Nigeria, and then also, countries in South America too, Argentina comes to mind, countries where there's actually a lot of frequency, there's a lot of volume of just Bitcoin being transferred for goods and services, and then exchange for, United States dollars if they're going to be coming to the United States or going to be traveling outside of Argentina. But I actually work with a decent amount of folks down in Argentina, and a lot of them report to me that Bitcoin is extremely widely used. And you've got to
Hope they're not German.
You've got to cut no. Well, you got to kind of work around the system a little bit there, but the government is kind of playing ball with this alternative crypto scheme that they've got going on down there. So my guess, I mean, I've kind of expounded on it at length.
No, I think it's emerging markets, people with inflation as a real issue, and people with bad central banks for sure. Other continents maybe not need it so much. In America, we live in our little bubble nerf world, so I like to call it.
Exactly.
All right, well, Sin City Crypto. Did you go to Bitcoin Miami 21? I know you were there last year.
22.
All right. Well, in 21, there was there's a little bit. I mean, we were falling, right? I mean, we weren't going to get a good month until like about September, but at the time we were close enough to the all-time high at that point. We're all feeling bullish. And then there's a bullish narrative. It wasn't just El Salvador. There's another bullish narrative. That was Jack Mallers, Lightning Network, and the emergence of Bitcoin L2s. And this is going to change everything, folks. You're going to buy a Dr. Pepper at the gas station using Bitcoin and 21 button presses there. Didn't end up happening here. But what about the next bull run? We almost fell for it in 2021. For the next bull run, do you see Bitcoin L2s as an emerging narrative?
Yeah, 100%. You take a look at projects like Stacks, like ICP. There's a couple other ones that are building the whole ordinals craze. I mean, if you're able to get an outspoken detractor of Bitcoin like Peter Schiff to freaking inscribe something on the Bitcoin network via ordinals, I mean,
we won.
What else is there to say?
Yeah,
we won.
Exactly.
We don't need
and it was funny
Bitcoin.
watching him trying to defend his actions, saying, no, it doesn't mean I like Bitcoin. You're using the Bitcoin network. You're leveraging the network, the very network you say is useless and it's going to go to zero, which is funny. That narrative is not going to change. It's going to get stronger. You have the BRC20 tokens, you have the ordinals, you have the inscriptions. Bitcoin is going to grow into this ecosystem of not just store of value, not just inflation hedge. It is the most decentralized. It is the most secure network in blockchain. I don't think anyone can argue that, right? It's never had a hack. It's never the network has never gone down. And I'm pretty sure
hacks. It's had hacks.
Double spin problem.
Hacks to the point where the network
for over a decade. For over a decade, it hasn't had a hack.
There was an inflation bug that created outside more than 21 million Bitcoin. That's pretty damn bad.
It's all within the first year or two. But now the point stands, Sin City. Now, what is the move with that knowledge? Is it Stacks? Is it buy an ordinal? What would you do with that?
I've been stacking Stacks. I've been stacking Stacks. I'm looking outside. There's a couple projects. I'm not going to name them here because I'm not shilling anything, but a couple projects outside of the top 100, even outside of the top 200 that I'm throwing a little bit of money at just to see, hey, maybe a new L2 is going to be here. But as of right now, my bet is on Stacks.
All right, Sin City, maybe give the chat a blessing there, and maybe hey, we like Jack. We like everything he's trying to do. He's a super emotional guy. RiceTVx, I heard you say you want to mention Bitcoin Cash. I mean, do you want to mention Lightning Networks, how there's a need for maybe larger transaction data, maybe more quick transactions, maybe 10 minutes is too slow? Well, what are your thoughts on the Lightning Network? Is it needed? Will it survive? Do you like it?
I don't like it. At the time, it's needed because we don't have a scaled Bitcoin. I'm a big blocker. We had this debate that happened in 2017, which resulted in a chain fork that created Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash, the transactions on Bitcoin Cash, and I'm not saying Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin Cash transactions are a lot cheaper than Bitcoin transactions. And they're even comparable to Lightning Network transactions. So if we had a scaled Bitcoin, we wouldn't need a Lightning Network. that's kind of the point of what I wanted to mention with Bitcoin Cash. And I've mentioned this many times on previous shows, that if we look at all the other forks that have taken place, hard forks on Bitcoin, because there's been a multitude of them, they could be looked at as test beds. What we've seen with the ordinals and the stamps gave me the realization that there are people trying to force the Bitcoin developers to have to scale Bitcoin because of this debate. And the interesting thing is, when you look at the one individual who was calling for the banning of the ordinals, that was a developer by the name of Luke Dash Jr. He's also in charge of the Bitcoin improvement proposals. And ironically enough, he is one of the co-founders of Blockstream, who I have mentioned is another entity with their liquid sidechain that hires Bitcoin developers and pays them to work on solutions instead of actually improving Bitcoin on chain. They would rather have these side chains that they can profit off of, because nobody pays the Bitcoin developers to develop on Bitcoin. But Blockstream sure as hell pays the Bitcoin developers to develop on Liquid. And I believe Blockstream is also an investor in the Lightning Network, as well as MasterCard and Visa. Ultimately, I've said that the Lightning Network, when we see regulation come through, a lot of people are going to get in trouble and either not be able to operate these things and or get in trouble for operating without a money transmittal license and doing money laundering, because there are certain procedures that you need to do when you're kind of being a throughput for transactions in commerce. And that is not being looked at, hasn't been discussed, but we've seen other people in the cryptocurrency space that have done peer-to-peer sales that have gotten busted by Department of Homeland Security for those very same charges: money laundering, operating without a money transmittal license. So I'm just wondering what they're setting people up for. And again, if we had a scaled Bitcoin, we wouldn't need these layer twos. We wouldn't need, and not saying that we couldn't use them, but there wouldn't be a need or a reliance on it. I have to use the Lightning Network if I want to save my sats. If I want to stack my sats, I want to save my sats too. So would I rather send a peer-to-peer transaction with Bitcoin, or would I rather send a Lightning
would you rather spend
transaction?
$30 for a transaction or $1 for a transaction?
I want to save.
You want to save that $29 of Bitcoin.
Use the Lightning Network, but
again, sorry, miners. I know you're banking on that fee, miner. I'm sorry, F2 poll. I'm sorry. All right, Evan Aldo. Let's put you in a pickle here. You live in Brickell, so you're no stranger to. I don't know. I'll go ahead and say it. It's not a fun experience buying things in Miami. Whether it's a hidden, you bought a stick of gum, here's 40% tip, just the prices in general. But they do signal a lot of push for Bitcoin adoption, right? You can rent a Ferrari with a Bitcoin or something. Well, I want to ask, is that necessary? Do we need to be able to buy coffee with Bitcoin for mass adoption? Are the small retail transactions necessary? You got muted. We weren't on Lightning Network.
It kind of is. Sorry about that. I think ultimately, it kind of is not for complete mass adoption, but it absolutely, I think, is to be able to use it. Lightning Network. I mean, a lot of this stuff is very indicative of what kind of happens in these phases, accumulation phases, where a lot of people give up on the altcoins, sell their altcoins for Bitcoin. You see more innovation kind of in Bitcoin, similar to what we saw in 2019, where all these altcoins, if you just look at the charts, I mean, ETH has bled, against Bitcoin. Was it 30% now since last September? Like, nothing is holding up well against Bitcoin. Solana is now, almost about to make a lower low against Bitcoin. If you really look at a lot of the altcoins versus Bitcoin, you look at that Bitcoin dominance chart that's just going kind of parabolic right now. I'll just show you real quick on the chart, like Bitcoin dominance right here. I think we're at least going to get up to, 55%. So that's what's indicative of, all this Bitcoin stuff, Lightning Network happening. And once we get up to these areas, I think a lot of people are really going to become kind of Bitcoin maxis, really give up on alts probably in September, October. And that's when you want to kind of get into start to get into the altcoins. Also, if you look at total 3 versus Bitcoin, this is the total crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Right here, back in, I want to actually go on my 2-week real quick and show you this. Right here is kind of, see how these Heiken Ashi candles right here started to turn from red and then upward green. That was the time to start getting into kind of, or excuse me,
little trigger wave forming on that microcipher B.
Sorry about that. Right here I pointed it out. Heiken Ashi candles turning green right here. This was the part to get in. Look at how this is bleeding. Total 3 just keeps bleeding against Bitcoin. Couple more months, so we're probably going to see more news, more things involving pro Bitcoin, Bitcoin adopting new things to take away kind of from the altcoins. Ordinals could be some of the reasons why the Mutant Apes and the Bored Apes. They're making lower lows, a lot of these NFTs, and I think we'll continue to see that at least for a couple more months here. So be very careful with the altcoins. This is Bitcoin accumulation season.
Chat is knocking your eyeballs there. Kid BTC, Evan's blind. No, look, all right. We look at screens all day. Sometimes it gets a little blurry there. And on that last chart, there's not often we're by the green dot, idiot. I know it's kind of a meme, but sometimes a green dot is so rare. It is a very, very, very strong buy signal. That looked like that could have been one of them. But I think that's all we got time for today. I know I'm feeling a little bit scary about we will never hit 60% Bitcoin dominance. I don't know anymore, but it looks like RiceTVx ended up taking it home. Show off that cryogenically frozen head you might have in the background. Let us know your secret keys to your Bitcoin wallet with the million in there. RiceTVx, any parting thoughts is fine.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everybody to make sure they're following myself and all the guests. Make sure you're subscribed to both of my YouTube channels, RiceTVx and Rice Against the Grain. If you've been subscribed to my channel, make sure that you're still subscribed, because YouTube has just been mass unsubscribing people from my channel. Make sure you get outside, touch grass, and enjoy life.
Hal Finney is the creator. When he gets unfrozen, Bitcoin will dump. We're going to end it with that. That's all we got.
Yeah,
hit that.
We got a crazy chat in the house tonight.
Links in the description.